Welcome to Dig It, a real estate podcast by Hubbell Realty Company. Well, welcome back, everyone. We have a very, very special guest joining the Dig It podcast today, one that you haven't seen in a while. It is our very own CEO, Rick Tollakson of Hubbell Realty Company.
Well, thank you, Claire. I'm super excited to be here.
I'm glad you're back.
Good.
It's been a while since we had you on.
Since the very first one. I
know, and then we've been busy with everyone else trying to take your spot in these chairs. So we're bringing you back here for a special reason today. So I think a lot of listeners and viewers may have heard that, you have celebrated 40 years at Hubbell, much of that time being president and CEO.
Yes.
But you're looking ahead, yes, to retirement, but to something else in the very near future, in the nearer future as well. So will you tell us
Yeah,
what
I'm very
that
excited
is?
to announce that I've written a book. It's called Think Bigger, Lead Better, 8 Great Principles for Organizational Success. And it's going to come out on, I believe, November 4th. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty soon. And it's been a very fun experience to write the book and go through the process.
I have it here with me. I'm
Yes.
so excited.
Yeah, it is cool.
I'm so excited. It's going to be a really neat book. We've been working on it now for over a year,
yes,
correct?
Almost a year and a half, yes.
Well, so, okay, how I think a couple of things come to mind when people hear Rick Tollakson has written a book, right? One, didn't know you were into writing.
Yeah.
No, 2, but why did you do this? What made you feel the need to write a book?
Well, as I've been with Hubbell Realty 41 years, 21 years as the CEO, the company's growing tremendously in that time frame. We've done some amazing projects, and I've developed a philosophy 21 years ago that we still utilize today, and people on my team just thought we should let people know about it.
And that's 8 to Great.
8 to Great, and it may help them as well.
Briefly, we're going to get into 8 to Great and some of all of the all of the principles here in just a minute, because that's what today's episode is going to be all about, is just this book, a very small glance into it, because there's it's not a long read.
No, it's a pretty short read.
Pretty quick read, actually, but you do go into a lot more stories than we're obviously going to have time for here today.
Yes.
So you're going to have to pick it up. We'll tell you all the ways to do that. But how did that idea come about, and kind of that title, Think Bigger, Lead Better? Where did that title come from?
Well, I've told the story about thinking bigger numerous times, and I'm going to bore you again. I'll give you a short version of that story. As you remember, back in 2006, we were invited to do the Extreme Makeover Home Edition with Ty Pennington.
Yes, ABC Home Makeover. Yeah,
Move
that
Makeover.
bus, people.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And we did move that bus, and we built this family a home in a week, and it was an amazing time. But this is a home that we built out of market. This was not our market, at least not at the time. And so I had in myself said, this was such an amazing experience. If I ever had the opportunity to do it again, I wanted to do something in Des Moines, Central Iowa.
Right.
And lo and behold, about a year later, I met with a woman named Sister Stella Neal and Lori Miles. They represented an organization called Anawim. I didn't know either one of them, and I'd never heard of Anawim, which they explained to me was an organization that helps families, primarily the poorest of the poor in our communities. Mm-hmm. And I listened to them. They were just looking for a capital campaign contribution.
Right.
And I said, this may be my opportunity. They said they had some vacant lots, some duplex lots. They were really into a variety of single-family, attached single-family rentals, and then apartment rentals.
Right.
So I offered Sister Stella Neal, who I did not know. I said, instead of just giving you a capital campaign contribution, which I could probably have done for like $2,500 or $5,000 at the time, back in 2007, and she would have been just fine. But instead I said, tell you what, how about if we build you a house? We'll do it in a week. How about if we build you a house? A house.
Okay.
One house.
One house.
And Sister Stella just looked at me, and she said, well, thank you, Rick. I really appreciate the offer. but is that all the bigger you can think? Now, in 2007, I'd been the CEO for 3 years, and I was a little taken back. I didn't know this person. As I tell people, come from a small town in central Iowa, Hampton, Iowa. I'm a little Lutheran boy. The only thing I knew about nuns was, the flying nun. Okay, I didn't know anything about what was going on here, and I was just taken aback. But as I tell people, I thought fast on my feet, and I said, "Tell you what, you got duplex lots. I'll build you a duplex. I'll build you 2 houses." Again, Sister Stella looked at me and says, "Rick, very generous offer, and I really appreciate that. But is that all the bigger you can think?" Well, now I'm getting a little upset. Okay, this is an amazing offer, considering what I probably could have done. And so I just looked at it and says, okay, how big do you think I should think? And she said to me, "Well, we're here to talk about this project. It's a 9-plex. I said, "You want me to build you 9 houses?" She says, "Rick, I just want to know how big you can think."
You love a good challenge.
Oh, so I was not going to let this nun take advantage of me. And so I said, "You know what? You're on. Okay, we will build you 9 houses."
Yeah.
And what you got to understand, this is 2007,
Yep.
and at the time we were having probably our best corporate year in history, but it's followed by 2008, which was our worst corporate year in history.
Right.
And I'm wondering what in the heck's going on. Well, they hadn't really acquired the land yet. They had to acquire it from Polk County. Process has taken a little bit longer, and so the reality is it didn't happen in 2009, and our fortunes changed dramatically by then.
Right.
And we were building a lot of homes and a lot of apartments at that time. Mm-hmm. And so we had a lot of momentum behind us, and we were able to build that. We called it 9 homes for 9 families in 9 days.
That's wild.
And that's the thinking bigger story. And that's whenever I am looking at a project or thinking about something, here's Sister Stella in the back of my mind. Is that all the bigger you can think?
Yeah.
And I just got to remind myself that, you can think bigger. You
Right.
can do more.
Well, and you've been really good at reminding our teams of that too, right? Sometimes it's that's great. Can we do more?
Right.
In what way? Whether that's a project that, is all in on development or construction side, or if that's talking philanthropy on, now we've done 6 extreme builds.
We have done 6.
And I think there's another one planned in the future probably that
We're working on that now.
right? That's getting worked on. And so I think that is a good framework that you've at least instilled across the company of, are we thinking big enough? Have we, made that uncomfortable ask, or have you heard no yet?
Right.
Right. That's the worst that someone can say is no.
The worst they can say is no. And we've taken that same thought process, mm-hmm. and we, as you said, we've done it with several extreme builds.
Yep.
And
which you detail all of those in the book.
That's in the preface of the book.
The preface, and there's pictures in the back. I mean,
Right.
There's all sorts of stories throughout the entire book.
If you want
about
to know
that.
what Sister Stella Neal looks like, we have pictures of her.
Yeah, so many. And I'm glad that she challenged you to think bigger. Again, I don't know that I ever anticipated it coming out in book form,
Yes.
right? And so it's broken down by those principles, going back to the 8 to great.
Right.
I think that was kind of the thought process as you entered into, okay, how did these chapters look? What are some of the takeaways that you want people to have? But can you, just a small insight of how you came up with 8 to great?
So when I took over as, the real thing was Jim Hubbell and I, and kind of he caught me off guard, and you have to read the book. I'll tell you a little more about that story. But one of the questions he had for me, he said, "Rick, you need to come up with what your vision
Right.
for Hubbell Realty Company is." And there's lots of ways you could answer that. And I ask our own associates when I meet with them, and I go over 8 to great with them several times. I said, if I asked you to run the company tomorrow, what would your vision for the company be? How would you answer that question?
Yeah.
And for me, I looked at it and said, okay, what were the things that I felt we already did that made us what at the time I thought was a great company? Mm-hmm. And what are the things we need to work on to make sure that we're a great company into the future.
Yeah.
And, I had a lot more to begin with. I, probably wrote down about 20 things.
20 to great just doesn't have a ring to it.
I narrowed it down to 8. And of course, first thing Jim Hubbell said to me is 8. You couldn't think of just 4? And I said, well, 4 to great didn't really have a good ring to it either.
Right.
Kind of maybe pulling off of Jim Collins's book,
Yeah.
Good to great a little bit, but 8's are great. And we came up with these 8 principles.
Yeah. Well, the chapters go through them kind of one by one, and principle 1 is find passionate associates.
Right. And
that's number 1 for a reason. I feel, at least for you, we have grown tremendously as a company over the past, I guess you would probably say 40 years. I'm going to say even the last 5 to 10 years, we've grown tremendously. And we have 18 different divisions with different goals and different teams, but then all live under one roof. So why is that so important to find passionate associates?
Well, that's what I looked at first of all when I looked around me at all my fellow associates at the time. And when I took over the company in 2004, there's probably close to maybe 60 people, associates in the company, and they were extremely passionate. Okay. They weren't people, that needed to be constantly motivated. We had very, very little turnover. And I knew for us going into the future to replicate that as close as possible, what is going to be very, very important to us.
Yeah.
How do we get passionate people? We've tried a variety of things, but we knew it was through culture.
Yeah.
Okay. And so by creating a culture where they can be successful, where they feel heard, that's what I believe is important.
Yeah. And that kind of leans into your principle too, which was encouraging the entrepreneurial attitude. And why is that important? I mean, again, that kind of goes back to thinking bigger and pushing people to maybe go outside of the box a little bit.
But even in the beginning for me, it was, why was I still at Hubbell?
Right.
I came to Hubbell to build the Kaleidoscope at the Hub and the Hub Tower, a 20-story office tower and a 2-block-long retail center in downtown Des Moines.
Rest in peace.
Okay. Yeah. And, you do have to point out, rest in peace, that one of the buildings they built has already been torn down.
But that's part of it, right?
It's part of change that happens.
Part of change.
And I really planned on really building this building and going on and building the next high rise.
Right.
And maybe a 30-story or a 40-story and keep doing more high rises. I'm a construction engineer. That's my background, so that's what I do. But opportunities at Hubbell kept coming up, and I moved into development very quickly. Kind of took over that thing. Moved into land development. They allowed me to create our home building company as well. Yeah. They just kept giving me opportunities, and they let me think bigger. They encouraged me to think bigger. The company did, and I just took advantage of that. Yeah. And I wanted our associates to also experience what I experienced and the thrill of entrepreneurship, of creating new entities and new things, and even take it beyond. You don't just have to be entrepreneurial by creating a company. You can be entrepreneurial by creating new processes or just new ventures within the company that we get into.
Well, being comfortable to say, I have an idea. I don't know if it's going to work, but it could and we should try it. And making the case for it and making sure that it aligns with the company's values. I mean, that's something to be said there, of being able and to feel comfortable enough to say that to your managers or your CEO, your leaders.
And they have to be comfortable with failure.
Yeah,
because entrepreneurship, basically, the nature of it means you're not going to succeed at every one. Yeah. You are going to have some failures. And I talk about a few of those in the book.
Yeah, yeah. Those were fun to work through. Just figuring out which failures do we share
here.
Do
we really want to share all of them? Everything
No, we did not. Principle 3 is developing an engineering mindset, which for someone like you is very easy. But for me, it's a little bit more difficult. So it kind of trying to merge those mindsets and what do you mean by an engineering mindset, a process improvement?
Yeah, I called it that because, I am an engineer, and engineers were kind of taught to think a certain way. And it involves understanding that no matter what your optimal solution is today, that the variables around you are going to change dramatically, and you have to respond to that and come up with the optimal solution, a new one tomorrow, a new one the next day, et cetera, that there's always a better solution. And I think in today's world, with artificial intelligence being discussed as much as it is, everybody can see that you have to understand that. Well, artificial intelligence is just a way to make a lot of your processes work more efficiently.
Right.
Okay. For us, we had to go through and go back through a very historic way of looking at things, coming up with process improvement initiatives. And we have 2 full-time people. That's all they do is work on processes within the company to help us make us run more efficiently.
Well, and they were a big part of that Principle 4 chapter. I mean, just, what I want people to know about the book too is how many people were also behind it and including stories and input. And you kind of pooled all of your HRC leadership team for examples of how have people, shown this entrepreneurial spirit, or what projects really brought that to light, whether they were, success or not so successful.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of
And we
people.
simplified process improvement to the point. We're not boring you. It's not a whole textbook on process improvement. No. We kept it pretty straightforward and simple.
It's true.
But, we do talk about the different processes and the changes that help make our company more efficient and better at what we do.
Yep. For sure. So the next principle, which is probably the easiest one to talk about, is the enriching the quality of lives in our communities. That's
right.
part of our mission, right?
It's part of our mission statement. It's a long mission statement, but the part I focus on is enriching the quality of life in our communities. And for me, a lot of that has to do probably with our extreme builds.
Yeah.
Yes, we did 9 homes for 9 families in 9 days with Anawim. We then turned around, and 4 years later, we did cabins for campers at Easter Seals Camp Sunnyside.
Yep.
That was a great one. Where I remember walking in with one of our senior vice presidents who was on the board, and I decided that I wanted to do something to help them. We had a community, a golf course community called Woodland Hills, still have it, right adjacent to Easter Seals. So I had been involved with their corporate regatta, which of course is a fancy word for paddle boat race.
Which you've won many times.
Which I have won a few times, and but I'm kind of aging out of that process a little bit. So I asked her, Sherry Nielsen was the executive and still is the executive director of Easter Seals, about the condition of the cabins. And she was quite embarrassed. They were built by volunteers in the 60s.
Yeah.
And they were in very, very bad state. And this is a year-round camp. And they weren't really prepared for it to really be a year-round camp. I wasn't really initially. It was a typical camp that you went to. And so I said, I had this idea, how about if I tear these cabins down? And she said, tear them down? How long would that take? And I said, 45 minutes, get Macinich out there with the bulldozer, just knock them all down. Maybe longer to haul all the debris away, but knocking them down is pretty easy. And we'll give ourselves a week to build them back. It maybe took a little bit longer than that. But, we didn't really just replace the cabins. The team thought bigger than I did. I would have just replaced the cabins. They went in and built 2 7,500 square foot lodges. Yeah. One of them had a whole tornado shelter designed inside of it, so people didn't have to go down the basement or something of one of the buildings, because there was only one that had a basement, and it was just a safer, better environment for them. So we did Easter Seals Camp Sunnyside. What was number 3? Was at Ronald McDonald House.
2009. 2013. Yep. Ronald McDonald House was 2017. That was actually my first.
Ronald McDonald House was?
Yep. That was my first extreme build. That was the year I started with Hubbell. And so I think I started 6 months before we dove into that. Yep. And that was, again, a whole demolition of the Ronald McDonald House of Central Iowa and a rebuild, which 20 rooms. I mean, that was massive, and that was 11 days.
Yes. That took a little bit longer. Brenda Miller was a friend of mine. She wanted me to, she really just was looking at an idea of how we could remodel the existing building, which had already been modified 2 or 3 times.
I remember touring and thinking there's just no way. There's no way.
It just didn't make any sense.
I love that the trades that have been getting involved in these extreme builds over, however many years now, 10, 15, 20 years that we've been doing it, they're long-term
Right.
They turn around, you mentioned the Mac niches and Easter seals, and now they have been a humongous
huge
supporter.
Donors with Easter seals. Mike Simonson designed Easter seals for me. I kind of twisted his arm to volunteer, and you don't have to twist Mike's arm very hard to get him to step up, and he designed that. It was difficult because it was a multi-story building with an elevator. Okay, so it took a huge amount of planning. You're talking basically coming under the commercial code, maybe rather than typically the residential code. But our team got it done.
And relocating, I think a really important piece of maybe what people don't think about during these extreme builds is that all of these organizations have to continue their efforts without the building that they're used to doing it in.
Right.
So we're figuring out where can the Ronald McDonald House host PICU, NICU, and cancer patients and their families while we take the 11 days, which really you say that took a long time. That is...
Well, yeah.
It was our longest extreme build, but
normally
that didn't take
project
very
would
long.
take well over a year to build,
Right.
and we did it in 11 days.
Right.
I know a lot of people ask, how do you do that? Okay.
Planning.
A lot of planning. By the half hour, 15-minute increments.
Yeah.
It is the most cost inefficient way to build a building. These are all professional craftsmen.
Yep.
They come in mass, okay? And that's why it's so inefficient, is because you look at the number of man hours they use because they volunteer. Just showing up an hour early to get ready is sometimes, it could be 20 or 30 drywallers ready to get in and do that building.
Right.
And they just come in, and and we have constant inspection. Everything is done per code. Quality is there.
It's amazing.
We back up everything. Everything's still under warranty.
Yeah.
It's been a good experience for everyone.
But that's, just a small look. I know we've talked extreme builds. We got to talk to them a little bit more since we had our extreme golf organizations on at the beginning of this season. And so you'll definitely have to read a bit more in the chapters on some of the behind the scenes components, but the enriching of the quality of life is just beyond the extreme builds. It's behind everything that we do.
And we do a lot with a lot of other charities. I co-chaired the JDRF walk with my granddaughter. We've gotten involved in a huge number of things. And, I'm very involved with Icon Water Trails, which is very near and dear to my heart, even though I know nothing about kayaking, or at the time anyway.
You said you were going to surf.
Yeah,
I heard you say that. Well, the next principle I want to go to is the accuracy first, speed second. You say it a different way than maybe what the book chapter outlines.
Yeah, they didn't really like the way I was saying it. So
well, we can't.
It's accuracy and speed,
accuracy and speed.
Measure twice, cut once is something we talk about in the construction industry. It's really about quality. Okay, of getting things done, making quality one of your highest priorities.
Yeah.
Okay, and process improvement gets involved with that, because that's a big part of how you make sure that things are done at the quality level we expect.
Yep.
We want our teams to think about make sure you do it right first. Okay, and then focus on how fast can you get it done.
Right.
And which is counterintuitive. Most people just want to get it done fast.
Well, most people have heard of the tortoise and the hare, right? A little bit.
They've heard about it, but they still just want to get it done quickly.
It's true. The next one that I liked, and this is a fun one, creating raving fans.
Yes.
Hubbell raving fans specifically is what we always say internally, but raving fans in general too, that covers it.
Right. Raving fans, there was a book called Raving Fans, and I remember reading it. It's one of the early books on customer service. And for us, a big part, is both internal and external customer service.
Yep.
And I think one of the biggest things we talk about in this chapter, and probably some other chapters, is our Hubbell High Fives.
Yep.
And because you created the name for it.
I helped.
Yes. And
I helped.
It's amazing. When we first started with High Fives, and we didn't have a cute name for any kind of a contest, we probably got, 5 or 6 a month kind of thing.
Well, and they were emails, right? Like back and forth. So maybe some people saw them, maybe some people didn't. And then we developed this system via our internet.
Yeah. So now what they go on there, anybody can nominate anyone, and it's not the nominator that gets their name in. It is the person they nominate.
Yep.
Okay. And they nominate somebody for a Hugo High Five, and it can be anything. We're not here to judge whether it meets a certain criteria. You say something nice. I mean, it could be as simple as, Claire smiled at me this morning and made my day. I want to give her a Hugo High Five.
Right.
Okay. To something like, this person came in and we just had a major catastrophe down at this apartment community.
Yeah.
They helped me clean it all up after hours, did it with a smile on their face and got it done. Same kind of thing.
There's a lot of that. Going above and beyond is kind of a phrase that I feel that we use a lot at Hubbell.
Yes.
Who went above and beyond for you? And that we have had over, I think, 4,000 Hugo High Fives since starting it, and we really didn't start it all that long ago.
No, it's 200 to 300 a month.
Yeah.
Now that we give, and we give out 8 $100 awards once a month. Okay, and it's a computer program. Everybody wonders because some people seem to be really lucky.
No.
Okay, but they get we give out $800 a month, 8 $100 awards, and that's all it takes to motivate these people.
But truly, I don't think I've ever heard people talk about, oh yeah, I just want the $100 gift card. They're raving about what that person said about them, which is obviously the point. And
it's fun to have somebody compliment you, and it's fun to have somebody basically compliment you in public.
Right.
Okay, and it's a very public. I read all the emails. I see every single Hugo High Five.
Me too.
And anybody can log on to the internet and also read every Hugo High Five.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool.
It's a good one. That was a good one that you started. That was probably you saying, how do we think bigger yet again?
Yeah.
The last two are super easy, but also something you have to work on, right? Teamwork.
Teamwork for me was the most difficult because it did not come naturally to me. So I tell people I was a wrestler in high school. It's more of an individual sport, not a team sport.
Very much so. Outside of the people cheering you on, it's you.
as a leader, I kind of run hard and try to run faster than everyone else and try to have them keep up with me. But I realized from the beginning, if we were really going to be as successful as I wanted us to be, we were going to have to work as a team.
Yep.
And I'll give credit to all the associates on our team. They think that way.
Yep.
They nobody does a project where it's just I did this project. They may want to claim they did it, but the reality is there's a whole bunch of other people behind that actually made that project happen.
For sure.
And it takes a lot of departments.
Yep.
So any particular project may involve 6 to 10 different departments within our company to make that project happen.
For sure. We all are so interconnected, and we are kind of that vertical integration, right? Like from the ground all the way to the top. And so there's so many of our divisions that overlap. But I also think generationally too, you kind of get the best of both worlds, and the fact that you do have a team in almost every sense, but you are being encouraged on the entrepreneurial attitude side of things to say, okay, that's great, but if I'm over here in marketing, I can still bring a good idea if I see it to land development or to construction services, and maybe they hadn't thought about that.
Right.
And that's also an expectation there.
Yes.
So, and the last one, number 8.
Number 8 was to have fun. And a lot of people have that in their what I call their cultural vision.
Yeah.
But for us, it was very important. For me, I've always had a great time at Hubbell Realty Company. We plan, as you all know, a number of social events to get a lot of people included in what we do and to make them feel about what we accomplish, not only in the philanthropic side, on the social side. And, with a reminder, if there's one, and I've been saying 8 to great for 20 some years, and the only one I can guarantee you they remember is number 8, because I'll go around the room and says, can anybody tell me what the 8 to great are? Well, I know what number 8 is. It's to have fun. Okay. Well, we got one. Okay. That's a start.
That is a start.
Okay.
That's a start. Oh, but I think it's important though, too, because there are, people who naturally keep their head down, want to just keep working on the next project. And then you have others in the company who really are those cheerleaders, who are people who are like, okay, stop, think about what we just did, what we just created, and how impactful that is, and how much fun we had. Do you remember this and that? But I think all of that, just as a culmination together, it goes really well. And that's why I think the book kind of just wraps them all in. I mean, you can't really encompass 41 years in, however many pages.
Yeah. And I didn't want the thing to be 500 pages long and tell every
Thanks
story
for
that we come
sparing
by.
us on that one.
I like quick reads myself, and this is a pretty quick read.
It really is. And so, okay, we've got a couple of big dates coming up. So I know that, and I'm going to repeat these numerous times before the end of this, but people can get on a list, right? They can get on a mailing list to get some notifications and learn a little bit more. And that's 8togreat.com.
8togreat.com.
We'll put all of this in the show notes too.
Right.
But the book itself is releasing on November 4th.
November 4th. And we'll have a launch party, though, on November 3rd.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got to have it the night before. Why not?
Yeah, we'll have a few books there. Not a huge number. We'll have a few books there, and I can sign books for people who, I get a lot of requests from friends that want me to sign something for them. And
yeah, they're
they're
proud. I was going to say they're proud. They're excited. I know a lot of our associates feel the same way. And there's also going to be an audiobook, right? For those who are not into reading and having the physical copy about a month
Kindle
later.
edition, which also will come out on November 4th.
Oh, yeah, Kindle. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And then 30 days later, there'll come out the audio version.
Yes. And
I am not the narrator of the audio version.
Okay, Poe, we just put the mystery to rest.
Yeah.
You are not the narrator of the audio book. Got it.
As you pointed out earlier, I get asked that question a lot. Are you narrating? No, I'm not narrating.
I get asked that question a lot.
We interviewed several narrators and listened to examples of their work and then narrowed it down to one we thought would be the best.
Yeah.
He does a very nice job.
Yeah, I like it so far. It's really going to be cool to see it all be released to the world officially, later this year. Let's go back to just a little bit on how you end the book, how you kind of wrap it down, which is a phrase that I've heard you say many times. It kind of is a little parallel to think bigger.
Yes.
And what is that phrase?
I say a lot and remind people it's just not that hard. And what we do is it just really is not that hard. Now, you can get overwhelmed pretty easily. Mm-hmm. Now, you have a whole team of people to help you figure things out.
Yep.
And just keep it simple.
Yep.
Okay? You, people talk about that, keep it simple, stupid all the time sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing. It's not that hard. Just remember, it isn't that hard.
Right.
I mean, we're not.
What is the goal?
Yeah. What are we trying to accomplish? We can get this done. We've done similar projects. We've done more complicated projects. Mm-hmm. This is maybe more complicated than the last one, but maybe less complicated than another one. We've got the team to do it and the resources to do it. And just remember, going forward, it's not that hard.
Yeah.
And when I talk about this was my cultural vision, and I hope the readers read it and say, okay, I'm not saying that for your company, these 8 are your 8 to great.
Right.
You may come up with 8. You may call it 4 for more or something like that. And only come up 4. But this is my cultural vision. And it's not what I would call a tactical vision. Hey, I want to build X number of houses or X number of apartments or X number of square foot of industrial space or any of those kind of things. It's more of this is the kind of company I want our company to be. And it is that kind of company. Mm-hmm. And that has really made us successful. Yeah. And I'm excited. I mean, we're going to talk about it more next year, but next year's our 170th anniversary. Yeah. So in Des Moines, Iowa, this company has been around for 170 years next year.
Yep.
And that's pretty impressive.
It's the longest standing real estate company in Iowa.
In Iowa, yes.
Yeah. And I mean, predating a lot of companies throughout the nation in the Midwest. Absolutely. Yes. So it's something to be celebrated.
Yes. And we're going to celebrate it.
Yes. Along with your retirement, which I think is wild to me.
Coming up in March, yes.
Yes, which is wild to me. But what did you think about the whole book writing process? I mean, that was definitely something that maybe wasn't on the bingo card but neither was being a CEO of the company,
That's
right?
That's true. It was not, I'm not one of those person that had written a goal down and said, be CEO of Hubbell Realty Company someday. Sorry, that was not the case. And I talk more about that in the book. Writing the book, we use Forbes. It's a Forbes book. They truly understand the process.
Yep.
No, I personally don't write the book. It's my stories.
Yep.
It's my words. They dig into it. We interviewed a number of, I'll call them ghost writers.
Yeah.
I think that's what they call them. And found one that fit my personality pretty closely. Thought a little bit the way I do, but actually knew how to write. As I tell people, you wouldn't want to read a book by me, written by an engineer. Okay. It would have been a lot shorter.
Would have been in all caps.
All caps, yeah. It would have, very hand printed a lot.
But I mean, this was hours and hours of interviews and storytelling and compilations. And so I do think that there's a lot more that goes into it than maybe people think and give credit to. And so I think it's just amazing that you kind of took all of that from your brain, all of those years of again, failures, successes, stories, lessons learned, and otherwise, and put it into just one
And they
piece.
do a good job in putting it into a context that makes it easier to understand for everyone.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's difficult, for I'm telling the story, I lived it. So,
Right.
They're looking at it and says, okay, I don't understand what you said. Let's back up and explain where this concept
What do you
came from
mean?
and what are you talking about?
Yeah, they did a good job of
And they
breaking
did a
that
great
down.
job of doing that.
Yeah. Well, I'm very excited for this to release so everyone can take a quick read or listen, whatever you feel. And usually we end each of our podcasts on off the rails question, but I thought maybe we'd switch it up because it's you here as our special guest to end with our one word. Will you kind of tell people what that one word is and maybe why you challenged associates to think of one each year?
There's an author named John Gordon, and he has a whole book written about one word, and it's your one word for the year that you kind of live by. And I challenge all of our associates, and I would say a very small number of them, really, out of the total, because we're a rather large company. I'm getting close to 800 associates. Okay, it just challenged them to come up with one word of what you're looking for this year, and you get a variety of words. Okay, you're still thinking. You got yours? Remember what it was?
Yeah, I found it.
Okay.
I think I've used it once before, but we've been doing this now for how long?
Oh, a long time. Probably ever since John Gordon wrote about it.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yes, my one word for this year was intentional.
Intentional.
Yep. And that was just something for me. I really wanted to make sure that I was not going into anything without being sure to say, okay, what is my goal? What am I doing this for? What does it benefit? I think I had last year I said yes a lot.
Okay.
And I just was like, okay, well, I don't want my word of the year to be no, but intentional and making sure that you just have that meaning behind the things you say, the things you do.
My one word was transition because, I'm working through that transition. I played it out with a lot of thought.
Yep.
I mean, from the very day I took over as CEO, one of the first meetings I had with our board of directors, I had to put my succession plan in place.
Yep.
So succession has been long in planning. Not that the plan doesn't change constantly, which it did.
Yep.
But Kyle Gamble is our president and chief operating officer, and next February at our February board meeting, I assume if things go as planned, he will be elected chairman. CEO, not chairman,
Yep.
CEO. And I don't know what my title will be. I'll stay on the board of directors.
Yeah.
I'm not going anywhere for a while.
Yeah.
Can watch, someone a lot younger with a lot more energy probably to take over the company, and exciting to see where he takes it.
Yeah, it will be exciting. I think everyone's really looking forward to seeing, what's next. But for now, I mean, we've got plenty of time
I've
before
got a few
that.
months yet.
Transition was a
it
fitting
happens.
word, though.
It is.
It's fun. It's difficult. It'd be different,
Yeah, it's different.
but it's happening.
Yeah. And now, when everybody says, "Are you still working?" I can say, "I am, but I do have a retirement date." So
Right.
that's
Yeah,
good.
exactly. Well, anything else you want people to know about this book? Again, I'm going to reiterate when it's coming out and how people can get their copies. But really,
I think
you might see it in a few airports. You might see it in a few places.
Yeah,
That
I hope they take the opportunity to read it. As I said, I think it's a pretty interesting book. There's a lot of stories, especially from people in Central Iowa, they're going to be able to relate to. They heard it, they read it. A lot of our suppliers and subcontractors, and vendors, et cetera, lived through it. They were part of it. And so hopefully they read it and feel good about it and feel, they were part of this whole process and what has made Hubbell what it is today.
Absolutely. Well, everyone can grab their copy right now, pre-order on Amazon, correct?
Yeah, Amazon, you can pre-order. And, We even saw one in Target. I didn't know they did pre-order in Target.
Yep, you can pre-order. And so 8togreat.com is where you can kind of learn a little bit more, take a closer look at it. You can get on that mailing list to get notifications, right? If you're not going to pre-order today, you can always get notified when that Kindle version comes out or when the audiobook releases in December as well. But the book, again, is Think Bigger, Lead Better, 8 to Great Principles for Organizational Success by Forbes and Rick Tollakson.
Yes. Thanks, Claire.
And I really appreciate you coming on and taking the time to just tell us a little bit about it, because I know there's a lot more to be found in the pages.
Right. And you should know, because Claire, by the way, is by my side during this whole process, reviewing.
It was fun.
Which, by the way, is not my strength. Review. But,
you stick to engineering and I'll stick to copy editing and writing.
Yes.
Deal. Well, again, thank you so much. Everything is in the show notes. And as usual, rate, review, subscribe, share, Dig It, a real estate podcast by Hubbell Realty Company. Thanks. Dig It, a real estate podcast by Hubbell Realty Company, is produced by Amplify Des Moines. Check us out wherever you get your podcast. Find us on YouTube at Hubbell Realty. Check us out on our website at hubbellrealty.com. And of course, like, subscribe, follow, and share across all social media platforms.